Good morning. Today we're going to talk about warm-up and cool-down exercises, stretching, before you engage in physical activity or sport. The objective, right here on the board, by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to identify and evaluate different types of exercise warm-up and cool-down activities. When I talk about warm-up activities or stretches, what are some of the things you guys have done in the past before, all right, I'm going to go for a run today. What do you do before? Stretch, exactly. What does stretching do? Good, yep, loosen up, help prevent injury, blood flowing, good, that's all very good. So you don't want to, say you're going to go play basketball game tonight. When you go there, you're not just going to walk out on the court and start shooting, right? Usually, you're going to do something to get the blood flowing. Where did you learn? Who taught you how to do that? Who? The coach? A parent? A doctor? Physical therapist? A lot of people can teach you those kind of things, right? They know a lot about muscles, and how to prevent injury, how to properly cool you down your body afterwards. When you're done, you don't want to really, just stop altogether and walk home. You want to slow your muscles down, slow your heart rate down, and bring it back down to normal. All right, so before you start working out or you're going to play a sport, something an athlete would want to recognize and figure out is flexibility. So, what does flexibility mean to you? Stretching? Yeah, you're getting there. Anybody else? Flexibility is your range of motion of your limbs and what is achievable by them without injuring yourself, injuring your joints. Like I can only go so far with my arms here. Not very flexible, but you can do exercises, you can do stretching to work in your flexibility even more. Does anybody know what stiffness means? Oh, sorry. So flexibility. Write that one down. That's a term. Flexibility. Flexibility. Stiffness. What does that mean to you? Yeah, so you played a football game, theoretically, you played a game yesterday. You woke up this morning and your muscles are really, tight, they're beat up, you can't really, your range of motion is a little limited. Stiffness, your muscles are stiff. Do you know what causes stiffness? Does anybody know what that is? Sort of. Yeah. Overexerting your muscles. Good, that's a good term right there. Lactic acid builds up in your muscles because you're using them so much.
And that's also like when you cool down to the less reactive you're like there.
Good. That's why cool down is important, to lessen that stiffness the next day. Exactly. Okay. So we talked about the importance of warming up. How do you come up with a good warm-up plan? Is it specific to you? Is it specific to your sport? What do you think? It's both. It is both. It can be both. Why do you think it's specific to your sport? Why do certain sports have certain, ways to warm up? Exactly. So let's say you're a long distance runner, you're probably going to get your cardio up a little bit more compared to, say, golf, right? You're going to run a little bit, you're going to lightly jog to get going. Or in golf, you're going to do a lot of probably stretching with your upper body, your hips, your torso. Not so much, elevating your heart rate or something like that. So that's called a general warm-up. Getting your body ready to go. That's another good one to write down. General warm-up. Active warm-up is another type of warm-up. Active is more for higher intensity activities. So say you're gonna play basketball, football. What's something that sounds like an active warm-up? So say, yeah, you're gonna play a football game. What's active?
Like the D-line and O-line, they just shut it back and forth.
What is that called? Blocking technique.
Yeah.
Working on your technique, working on the motions that you're going to use in that game. So if you're a baseball player, you're going to want to warm up, throwing the ball, lightly, slowly build up to gain speed. Active warm up. You're actively warming up your muscles to perform what you're going to do, sport you're playing. Also, that kind of falls in line with specific warm up. Specific. That's another type of warm up. Specific is geared towards your individual sport. Then there's one more type of warm-up. It's called passive. Passive warm-up. Does anybody know, what does that mean? Passive. Where you got active, and then you got passive. Kind of means like indirect. You're not actually moving your muscles so much. You're not like running or throwing, stretching. Passive. It could be using a heating pack to heat up your stiff muscles. It could be going to a trainer who's going to stretch you. Sitting in a whirlpool to warm up your body temperature. The trainer applying medical tape, braces before you go out on the field. Passive warm-up. So we got 4 types of warm-ups: general, warm-up, specific, and passive. Everybody get those? All right. So once you've engaged in your warm-up, got your blood flowing a little bit, loosened up your muscles a little bit, there's a couple different types of stretching we'll talk about. First one, dynamic. Dynamic stretching. D-Y-N-A-M-I-C. Anybody got an idea what a dynamic stretching would be? That's good. We're going to get to that. It's not necessarily dynamic. But I'll show you why that's important. What was that? No, that would be another type of stretching we'll talk about.
Is it like a stretch that focuses on one part of your body?
That's more specific, static stretching. We'll get there.
Like
Running. So if you're going to run a race or you're going to run track, you want to slowly, go jog a lap maybe. There you go. Dynamic stretching is movements and stretches that mimic the type of activity you're preparing. So like if I'm a baseball player and you're my partner, we're going to start, just going through the motions very slowly. We're going to start warming up our arms. We're not going to just go out and go, okay, go 200 feet down there. We're going to start throwing it all the way, right? No, that's how you hit yourself. Say you're going to play volleyball and you want to warm up your legs. You might want to do a whole bunch of squats, right? You might want to do paced squats, sit in the hole for a little bit, come back up, slowly get all those muscles and tendons retracting. Does that make sense? Dynamic. What you're actually going to do that day. Not necessarily full speed, but you're kind of mimicking it. Another type of stretching, ballistic. Ballistic. B-A-L-L-I-S-T-I-C. Ballistic. Kind of like dynamic stretching, but higher speed, higher intensity. What's something that sounds like a ballistic stretch? Yeah, working into sprints, that could do it. Or like You talked about high knees, doing them really fast, butt kickers, karaoke, balancing yourself and doing big leg swings. It's usually something done in like 10 to 15 reps a piece. Ballistic, something high speed, high intensity. Once you've already kind of loosened up a little bit, you're getting it to gain speed, workout speed. All right, so somebody else talked about, like quad stretches, calf stretches, like you talked about in the back. Static stretching. After a proper warm-up is complete and some variations of, specific dynamic stretches, you want to get into your static stretching. S-T-A-T-I-C. These are stretches, you generally hold for a range of 15 to 30 seconds. Sometimes, doctors recommend you coming out of injury. Sometimes they say, okay, hold it for a minute, because it takes longer for that muscle to warm up. They're the most common, so everybody knows the quad stretch, right? Where you grab your foot, brace yourself or balance yourself. That's a static stretch where you slowly pull back on the muscle. You're stuck in one place, or your arm stretch across your body. You're holding it in place, static. That's a traditional stretch. Those are also good stretches. Cool down too. All right, and the last type of stretch, passive stretching, P-A-S-S-I-V-E. What does that sound like? Passive stretch. Anybody got an idea? All right, so passive stretch means it's a stretch done with force from someone else or something else. You ever seen somebody on the sideline of a soccer game? Somebody's got some cramps. They'll lay down on their back. They'll put their leg up, and they'll have a trainer or a coach come over, and they'll slowly push their leg back. Just get a better stretch, get a deeper stretch. That's called passive stretching, where somebody else is aiding you. It's good because, like I said, for cramps, less mobility, less flexibility, somebody who can't fully stretch out a muscle, they can get help from somebody else to do that. Passive stretching, trainers, coaches, doctors. So we got 4 types of stretches. Anybody write all those down? Anybody can tell me? Oh, hold on a sec.
Dynamic, ballistic, static, and passive.
You got it. Good job. All right, so when you're done, it's okay. So we're all warmed up. We've done our active warm-up, determined flexibility, done some high-speed, dynamic, ballistic stretching, and then our static stretching, and we're all ready. We go out, we work out, we do our run, we do our swim, we play our game. We're all done. Do we just go home? We done? Done for the day? Cool down. What's a cool down? Exactly. Slowly bring it back down. Don't just stop all at once. Gradually. Do you know what happens if you don't? What did we first talk about at the beginning of the lesson? Sore, stiffness. The next day you're going to be in a little pain, going to be a little awkwardness, not feeling the greatest, and you got to practice the next day. You're going to have to take a whole lot of extra time, or you might not be able to practice the way you want to. So yes, cool down. You can use passive stretching, static stretching. Probably not ballistic. You probably don't want to go straight into that, but some dynamic stretching, going through the motions of what you've been doing. Slowly start feeling all those muscles again, stretch them out. Good, good. All right, so I think we got all of that. So it's always good. Who can you talk to? who are good resources to figure out a stretching routine, a warm-up routine, cool-down routine? Coach. Good, there's one. Trainer. Who else? Another player who's got a good routine? Sure. Doctor. Physical therapist. Good, good. Very good. All right. So everyone want to practice a couple of these? All right, everybody stand up for a minute. Just kind of stand next to your desk. You're not like directly next to it. You got a little space between you and the next person. Don't worry, we're not going to go run laps. All right, so a dynamic stretch. Does everybody remember what a dynamic stretch is? Something related to the activity you're going to do. Exactly. So what was my example about volleyball? Squats, you're getting down. Dynamic stretch. So do you want to do those really high speed? What if I did them really high speed? What kind of stretch would that be? Ballistic. So dynamic, nice and slow, right? Everybody, go ahead. Nice and slow. Down into the squat, get down to 90. Slowly come back up. All the way down. One more time. There you go. That's an example of a dynamic stretch. Any other ideas? Sport specific? Or if you're a golfer? Yeah, maybe get your arms moving a little bit. Slowly practice your swing just without the club. Go through the motion. Start feeling your hip flexors, your torso. All right, ballistic stretch. Make sure you got a little space. High knees. Well, she volunteered, so everybody high knees.
Oh no.
A little bit quicker, right? Good, good, good. Another one, like I showed you, the leg swings. Open up your hips. Flexion. You don't have to do this one if you got the space. It works really good, doesn't it? 10 to 15, I always do 15 because I'm always a little stiff. My flexibility and my hips aren't the best. So, leg swings, you can do them forward or sideways. Ballistic. All right, cool. What's another type of stretch? What was that? Passive stretch. What was an example I gave? Yeah, cramps in the legs. Those are always helpful for passive stretching. Got a trainer who will come up, push your leg. You can't maybe help you get that stretch much deeper than on your own. Static stretch. Everybody put your hand up in the air. Try to reach and touch your opposite shoulder. Take your other hand on your elbow and then push it. What are we stretching? Shoulder. Tricep. Exactly. Tricep stretch. All right, switch. Other arm, opposite arm up. Try to touch your opposite shoulder blade. Take your other arm, elbow, push. How long do we hold static stretches for? Good, 15 to 30 for static stretches. I usually err on the 30 seconds though. I think 15 is not enough. But 15 to 30. Good, good. Static. Can we do static before working out, playing sports? Probably the last thing we do though, right? Before warming up. Can we do it after? Yep. You can do static before and after. Cool down. Can you do dynamic stretching after? Probably. Probably not. Why not? Passives or dynamic. You know, simulated motions that you do in the game, like where I talk about running lightly before like a track event. Would you maybe want to slow down and run a little bit after just to slow those muscles down? Yes, definitely can. Definitely can do dynamic stretching. Not ballistic, but dynamic you can do after, for sure. All right, great. Thanks for participating. All right, now I got a short little review quiz. Don't worry, we're not going to grade it, but we'll just do it for participation. Got 10 questions we'll go through. On your notes, you can just number 1 through 10 on the back. Leave a space in between each one. Everybody ready? All right. First question. Is it appropriate to do stretching before physical activity, after physical activity, or both? Before, after, or both? Anybody need repeating? All right, next question. What is the term that describes the range of motion one can achieve with their limbs, muscles, and joints without being injured? Talked about like range of motion, how far, you know, you can stretch your arms up on your own. How far you can twist your body. What is the term that describes the range of motion one can achieve with their limbs, muscles, and joints without being injured? Please, like, we'll go over it. I know it's kind of a quick lesson, a lot of terms I threw at you, so just to see what you know. Kind of a good note-taking lesson too. Helps you learn some skills for this. All right, name 2 of the 4 types of stretching techniques one can do to prepare for physical activity. Name 2 of the 4 types of stretching techniques that we talked about today. Sure. Name 2 of the 4 stretching techniques one can do to prepare for physical activity. 2 of the 4 that we talked about. All right, number 4. What is the term that describes how quickly muscle tissue resistance swelling increases during a movement of stretching? It can also be from prior exercise. Think that. What are these muscles feeling? What's their condition now when they tighten up when you're trying to get them loose? All right, number 5. At a minimum, and not considering how often you play a sport or work out, engage in physical activity, what is the recommended amount of times a week you should practice stretching? Did I state that one? I was meant to. Write down how often you think you should. And that's a freebie. I'll tell you that one after. That's on me. All right, number 6. Name 2 professionals or people you could talk to develop a warm-up and stretching routine. Name 2 professionals or people you could talk to develop your warm-up or stretching routine. We talked about 5 or 6, I think. Okay, we talked about some treatment and care before and after working out you can do for your muscles and joints. Can you use heat, ice, or both to help prepare your muscles and joints and help them recover? Can you use heat, ice, or both? You want an extra stretching routine? All right. Name a type of active warm-up activity that you could use for a sport that you play or an activity that you do. Say he plays football, she plays basketball, you run track. Name something that you could do and write down what that sport is. Remember, active, something, simulating what you are going to do. Not necessarily gain speed, not right away, but you work up to that. All right, true or false? During passive stretching, where somebody else assists you, the person, the athlete, with stretching a muscle past a point that they cannot do on their own. True or false? Is that passive stretching where somebody else is helping you? All right, and final question. When doing a static stretch, what is the recommended time frame to hold that stretch? When doing a static stretch on a muscle, what is the recommended time frame to hold the stretch? Anybody need anything repeated? Everybody good? All right, question number 1. Is it appropriate to do stretching before physical activity, after physical activity, or both? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Right here in front. Both, correct. Both. You You can do static stretching before and after. You can do dynamic. Correct. What is the term that describes the range of motion one can achieve with their limbs, muscles, or joints without being injured? Flexibility. Good job. Flexibility. Name 2 of the 4 types of stretching techniques one can do to prepare for physical activity. Somebody give me 1. Nope. Passive? Active? No, that's active warm-up. Sorry. Passive, static, dynamic. 1 more. Yep, the high-speed ones, right? Ballistic. Good job. Static, ballistic, dynamic, passive. What is the term that describes how quickly muscle tissue resistance increases during a movement of stretching? Stiffness. Exactly. Stretching helps fight through stiffness. Proper cool downs help fight through stiffness. Preventing stiffness the next day. At a minimum, and not considering how often you engage in physical activity, what is the recommended amount of times a week you should practice stretching? I know. So what do you think? Somebody tell me what you think. 4? 5, 10? So the recommended right now is 3 times. 3 times a week. Just 3 times a week. I do too. If you're highly engaged in physical activity, you play a sport all the time, you're going to stretch more than 3 times. You're going to stretch, like you said, probably almost every day. Name 2 professionals or people you could talk to develop a warm-up or stretching routine. Coach or trainer?
I said
Doctor, yep. What was that? Another player? What was that? Physical therapist? PE teacher? A coach? Athletic trainer? Good. A lot of different types of people, resources who are going to be knowledgeable in that. Can you use heat, ice, or both to help you prepare your muscles and joints and to help them recover? What's that? Yes, you can. Can you use ice too? Yep. What does ice help do? You say, yeah, loosen up. Well, yeah, prevent stiffness, prevent swelling, which leads to stiffness. Heat helps activate the muscles to get the blood flowing, loosen them up. And you can trade off heat, ice. Name a type of active warm-up activity that you could use for a sport that you play. Who's a volunteer? Yep. Yep. Yep, going through your shooting motion. All the little steps of the motion. Good. Good. True or false? During passive stretching, someone else assists the person with stretching a muscle past a point they cannot do on their own. Is that passive, true or false? True. It is true. Passive, where you're not actually doing it yourself, someone else is helping you. When doing a static stretch on a muscle, what is the recommended time frame to hold the stretch? 15 to 30. Correct. Sometimes a doctor or a therapist will tell you, okay, you got to stretch this one much longer, a minute, 2 minutes, have somebody else help you. But yes, the general rule is 15 to 30 seconds. Good. Well, that concludes the lesson. Hope you guys learned some stuff. No, we can't really get outside and play sports right now, but hopefully you remember some of that stuff next time. Or when you finally get to go out.